Get ready for the Rings of Power Season 1 recap. I hope you are as excited as I am for Season 2, even if you didn't love the first season, and I know there's a lot of problems with it. With all of the news surrounding Season 2, I hope you're at least a little bit intrigued. If you're not, then you haven't been paying attention, or maybe you're a bit of a grifter. I'm not sure, but I hope you tune in at least to see what this new, higher-rated, more action-packed, with practical effects season has to offer. But we're here to talk about Season 1. So, let's first talk about some of the major players, at least in terms of screen time. And that would be Galadriel, Halbrand / Sauron, spoilers, and Numenor. Or, I guess, Elendil and the Queen Regent, as well as Isildur, and maybe his sister, although, really, it's just the men in that family. Sorry. So, what's going on with these guys? So, Galadriel had some changes throughout the course of the season. Not a ton. She started off being a very arrogant and very vengeful warrior hunting down Sauron, which got her in a bad spot with all the elves, really. She was mutinied and then cast out. She disobeyed her king and wound up meeting up with Halbrand, whom she believes she's discovered. He is the king of the Southlands, a region in the south of Middle-earth where these people who were subjugated by Sauron and now view themselves as subjugated by the elves. Hopefully he's able to stabilize that situation. But the two of them end up in Numenor first, and that is where Queen Muriel, the Queen Regent, decides that she will, in fact, for the first time in a long time, assist the mainland Middle-earth with Numenor soldiers as Galadriel convinces her to help take back the Southlands from this orc brigade that may or may not have Sauron leading it. So the Numenorians join Galadriel in this hunt for Sauron, which culminates in a massive battle where they capture the supposed Sauron, only to discover this orc or evil elf, unclear exactly, Adar, says he hates Sauron just as much as her, and that Sauron subjugated his people, the orcs, his children, as he calls them, as Adar means father. So, once again, we are confused. Where is this Sauron that Galadriel is hunting? All the while, Galadriel and Halbrand are kind of building up a relationship together. They've been through so much. And this eventually culminates in Halbrand both accepting to become the king of the Southlands based on a seal he was wearing that Galadriel believes belongs to the king, and then he reveals himself, or rather Galadriel finds out, that this is in fact Sauron in disguise, and thus we have our true two mortal enemies that are at the forefront of this entire show, Galadriel versus Sauron, and now they know who the major players are. Meanwhile, the Numenorians are still gearing up to assist the mainland with more troops. Elendil is looking for his son, who was lost in a fiery explosion that reinvigorated the volcano found in Mount Doom. Some other minor players that we need to talk about. We've got Bronwyn, Theo, and Arondir. Now, Bronwyn won't be returning. The actress has taken a step back from acting, and so it's unclear exactly where her story is going to go. But Theo was the one to discover the magic key, fashioned in the shape of a sword, that reignited the volcano, unbeknownst to him. In fact, if not for him, nothing would have come of this. The orcs were still looking for this sword, which was found a long time ago by a farmer, and he was keeping it in his barn. So unless the orcs knew exactly where to go, they could have been digging and looking for ages. But thanks to Theo, who really liked the look of it, and it kind of spoke to him, he brought it out and allowed the orcs to eventually get their hands on it and Wouldn't you know it, it creates Mount Doom and thus creating a habitat fit for the orcs to survive in during the day. So Theo is plagued with a lot of stress, the fact that he is a huge reason that the situation is as dire as it appears to be. Meanwhile, the relationship between Bronwyn and Arondir was becoming more palpable by the episode. What started as a silent, distant romance became an actual couple in a way. In fact, some of the best moments are Arondir interacting with Theo as a de facto father figure for him. And I think that's going to go a long way in Season 2, as Theo is going to struggle with a lot of the past. Very similar to another character like Galadriel that we've seen struggling with her past. Now we've got some other great and awesome characters to talk about. Elrond, Durin. This is some of the best character stories that we've seen in the show. Elrond and Durin started out as forgotten friends. Elrond hadn't been around in 25 years, shows up unannounced, unexpectedly, and just assumes everything is as it was. Little does Elrond know that the rest of us actually experience aging in a rather quick and scary way. In the blink of an eye, Durin, his close friend, is married with children, and they are almost teenagers. So Durin is upset that it's been 20 years and Elrond doesn't seem to have any issue with not seeing each other for that long, and in fact finds it quite normal. This is one of the best character aspects the elves have to struggle with. That is, their immortality is both a blessing and a curse. We see this in the original trilogy, and we see it here. Elrond has to realize that just because he's immortal doesn't mean his friends and everyone else is. And so he can't just wait 20 years, 40 years, 60 years to catch up with people. Even people such as the dwarves, who do have a somewhat longer lifespan when it comes to races in Middle-earth. Even 20 years for dwarves is too long. Despite that, they work through their issues, they come together and become as close of friends as Gimli and Legolas. In fact, there are moments where, through the use of dialogue, they hint at the fact that they consider each other brothers. Now, unbeknownst to Elrond, there was a different reason entirely that he was sent to talk to the dwarves than simply to get a little assistance in building a mighty forge, which was the initial pretext. The king, Gil-galad, as well as his smith Celebrimbor, have devised a plan to keep the fading elves, whose magic is dwindling, around in Middle-earth a little while longer. And that is using a precious metal called mithril, which we were first introduced to back in the Fellowship of the Ring. This amazing, glistening, silvery metal found deep in the mines of Moria are what it will take to keep the elves around. Otherwise, they must all go back to the Undying Lands. Despite the pleas from the elves, King Durin III, Elrond's friend Durin's father and current king, refuses, no matter what the price the elves are willing to pay. He says it's far too risky, and the elves have earned their place in history, and it's been foretold by much smarter and greater minds than the mere dwarves. So, that relationship might become rocky once again, once Durin is forced to decide between his best friend / brother and his own family father. Now, Celebrimbor, he didn't have a ton of screen time, but I think he becomes a key figure in Season 2, so I want to talk about him just a little bit. He comes in as this mystical elven smith of legend, and he is the one who will be creating the magical mithril items that keep the elves around. Unfortunately for him, the dwarves don't want to give up any of their mithril. So it's through his working with Halbrand / Sauron, who introduces him to some different smithing techniques that even the mighty Celebrimbor wasn't aware of. And Galadriel's knowledge of the magic of the metals and stones that connect the elves to the land allow him to create the 3 rings, the 3 elven rings, that will hold the elves' immortality and allow them to continue their existence here in Middle-earth. Now, the Harfoots and the Strangers have gone on a bit of an adventure themselves. The Harfoots started out as a rambunctious bunch of hobbits that travel from place to place, and this particular year has been very tragic and exciting all in the same time. The Stranger arrived from a meteor, and a little Harfoot named Nori befriended him and brought him into their close-knit inner circle. And through his help, they were able to make their way across their long journey to find their forest of apple trees ruined by the explosion from Mount Doom recently reawakened. Despite his best efforts, the Stranger is still not aware of his full powers and is unable to help the Harfoots any longer, and is thus forced to leave and seek answers elsewhere. Now, he is accompanied by a Harfoot who seems to have greater ambitions than simply being a Harfoot along for the ride. So Nori and the Stranger embark on their own mysterious path. They did encounter some magical users who believed the Stranger to be Sauron, only to be disappointed and beaten by him as he realizes he's not Sauron. He doesn't know what he is, but he knows that he is not evil, and he's going to be acting for good, and he is an Astari. What did you guys think of Season 1, and are you excited for Season 2? I hope you join us for each episode breakdown and theories and all sorts of fun stuff. I can't wait. I'll see you guys in the next one.